Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. We've got a lot to get into today. We had an exciting week of Champions League and Europa League action. And that's what a lot of the show is going to be about, because we had some very exciting games going on this week. And I just cannot wait to get into each and every one of them, even though one, I'm still feeling just so... It's like some good, some bad, mostly bad, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm going to be talking about. So first part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Champions League first leg recaps. Go over that Chelsea and Real Madrid game, that PSG Man City game, and then I want to give a little bit of a preview for that second leg coming up later this week. Well, actually, tomorrow is the PSG Man City game, so you guys might have already listened to this by the time that tie's done, and hopefully I'm a happy man. But yeah, that's what the first part's going to be about. Second part, we're going to talk about the Europa League, talk about that thrashing that Manchester United gave to Roma, and we're gonna talk about the other tie as well, see where that one's going, and I'll give a preview for that second leg as well, talk about who I believe is going to move on and who has the best chance to win the entire thing. Third segment, we're going to talk about the top 5 leagues, see how those are shaping up. I know like 3 of the 5 leagues are already decided in terms of their champion or league leaders of the season, and So we'll talk about that a bit. We'll talk about the games, talk about some of those other battles that are going on. Because, I know in the Premier League we got some top 5 positioning up for grabs still. Same thing in Serie A and also in the Bundesliga. All 3 of those. The title race has pretty much already been said and done, but there's plenty of other races to really talk about. So we're going to get into that in the third part of the show. And then last part, we're going to be talking about the top 10 Arsenal players this season, just continuing my top 10 players in each Premier League team. We're now moving on to Arsenal. And I think after Arsenal, maybe I'll do Aston Villa. If someone puts in the comments that they want me to do a specific team that I haven't already in the Premier League, you can let me know in the comments, and I'll do that. I'll do that team. But I believe after Arsenal, and like I said, maybe if I have a change of heart, I'll go Aston Villa. But I am going to stop here and start moving on to those other big teams in the other top 5 leagues. So, for today, it's going to be Arsenal. So let's just get started with the first segment, the Champions League first leg recap. We had 2 pretty exciting games, and I made sure to watch both of them. I even left work early. I was not missing these games at all, not a minute of it. And so I was able to, to really see how these games went along on both ties. And let's start off with Chelsea and Real Madrid, where Chelsea were actually dominating a lot of the possession. Like, they were making sure to play their game, their style, hold on to possession, find an opening. And there was a lot of times where Real Madrid was pushing up, trying to put pressure on Chelsea to get them to lose the ball, and they can start their counters because that's how they attack. But Chelsea were actually playing very well with their decision-making, their ability to get the ball up the floor. They were doing it pretty well, but the problem with them, as it has been all season long, is the fact that when they get into that final third, they're not able to really finish clinically and get, a good shot on goal, because it just, either a bad decision on that final ball, or whatever the case may be, it just always seems to be an issue for Chelsea. And early on, it was a pretty solid start. I mean, Chelsea were, like I said, completely dominating possession of the ball, and they started getting a little bit more aggressive in that attacking third. Like that long ball from, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Rudiger. I believe Rudiger was the one that sent that long ball to Christian Pulisic, who got perfectly behind that Real Madrid back line and was pretty much left in a one-on-one with Courtois, and he moved around him perfectly. All of his decision-making, he could have easily taken it early, tried to pass it inside to see if someone... But he decided to hold on to the ball, get around the goalkeeper, get pretty much him and everybody that was pretty much on the goal line there, and he was able to get it into the back of the net for the opening goal for Chelsea. And it was a very good goal at that. I mean, the way the poise that Pulisic had to get around Courtois and really, finish it in the end, because there were like three guys on that goal line trying to stop any shot from coming into the goal, but they just weren't able to. Varane, I believe, got like a shoulder on it, and it went in. And it was a very strong start for Pulisic, the American. And it really goes to show from the way he's been playing over the past couple games that this was kind of, something that was coming along the way. And it's great to see him get a goal in there. The thing is, that goal was 100% one-upped by Karim Benzema. A guy who continues to go under the radar, be one of those guys that, he came in around the same time as Ronaldo, and not Cristiano Ronaldo, the Ronaldo for Real Madrid. So his signing was super, overshadowed. And obviously he's played with great players over the years, Cristiano Ronaldo being one of them. And, he's been overshadowed by those players as well. Even Gareth Bale, had more star appeal than people would think for Karim Benzema. And he just continues to truck away, man, and just be, just show everybody that he is one of the best strikers in the world. I mean, his ability to get the ball off his head, which he wasn't even trying to, it just kind of happened, and he was able to still control it enough or control his body enough to go for a bicycle kick, in that kind of situation. Or it was more like a side kick. I don't know how to... like a scissor kick, I think that's the word for it, the scissor kick, and he got perfect contact on it right over Edouard Mendy. Nothing he could have done, nothing anybody could have done. Just look at the greatness that is Karim Benzema and him consistently getting goals in the Champions League. That's another thing. So huge performance from him, and that was the first half. It was those two goals in the first half, a little bit of back and forth. Real Madrid, we're kind of leveling the momentum a bit. Obviously, with that goal from Benzema, it certainly gave them a lot of confidence, and you can kind of see it as it was heading into half. Like, Chelsea were losing it a bit in terms of their possession and their ability to just dominate the game. It was faltering a little bit towards the end of that first half, but then the second half, it felt like it was all Real Madrid. Like, Real Madrid were just much more efficient when they were, getting on the ball and were holding on to it about as much as Chelsea were in the first half. And it kind of leveled it out, but unfortunately they weren't able to get a good shot on goal. I think they did, affect Mendy a couple times. He had to make a few saves here and there, but it was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing crazy where Mendy had to just, have a, incredible performance. It was nothing like that. So regardless of that possession, Real Madrid weren't able to capitalize on it and get a, strong start to this first leg. But, the game ends 1-1. Chelsea do end up getting that away goal, very important goal, but, they're going to probably need a little more than that, because the odds of keeping either of these two teams at only one goal for both legs is very rare. And I would not be surprised if the next game has like 4 goals in total. But I don't know. You just look at this team. Like, I loved the way that Thomas Tuchel played his team in that first half. Just constant pressure from that midfield. You have Rudiger, Thiago Silva, and Christensen playing that back three, and which allows Azpilicueta and Chilwell to kind of move up a bit and do what they need to do, whether it's an attack or defense. And then, of course, you had a very solid defending duo in the midfield in Jorginho and Kanté. Those guys were really killing it in this game, especially Kanté. He had an incredible game against Real Madrid. Just his work rate, he never lets you settle down. And that was really the turning point in this game, because you would expect a midfield of Modric, Casemiro, and Kroos to absolutely dominate anything Mason Mount, Jorginho, and Kanté can do. But it was actually pretty level. If not, it was mostly in favor of Chelsea. And that should tell you the story right there, that the fact that you're saying that Chelsea had about, possibly a slight advantage on that incredible midfield of Real Madrid, they were always going to have a tough time when that was the case, especially with Real Madrid having absolutely no Sergio Ramos. That's big as well. Varane had a good game. Militao played good as well. And Nacho, got to give them all credit. Didn't see much from Marcelo or Carvajal, to be honest. Like, the beginning of the game, I saw a little bit from Carvajal, but I don't know. I understand why they took him out. They needed fresh legs in there, and those guys weren't really giving you much. You were kind of trying to find ways to get in through Casemiro, Kroos, or Modric. Like, it was always something like that. Like, they used Carvajal a bit more than Marcelo, but kind of goes to show you where both of those guys are heading now in their career. It's kind of starting to get to that back end, no longer in that prime. I mean, maybe Carvajal a bit, but for sure for Marcelo, I could just tell he just doesn't feel like that same type of player that he always is, and it's a shame, because I know there was talks of him kind of losing it. He gained his starting 11 spot back, but yeah, it's definitely not the same as those days back when Ronaldo was on the team. Like, he was just one of the best fullbacks in the entire world. That certainly isn't the case now. And you look on the other side for Chelsea, you got great games from Thiago Silva. Kanté, I already spoke about, played great. Werner, again, with Werner, it's hit or miss, man. You really don't know. Like, he always works hard. He uses his pace to try to get behind the back lines, but he just can't find the connection with anybody, really. Like, it never feels like someone finds him perfectly on a run. It just doesn't happen very often for Timo Werner. Pulisic was able to get that one run and pass from Rudiger to be able to get that opening goal for Chelsea, and obviously in the end became a very, very important goal. But there were some chances for Chelsea to score that they just couldn't. You got to give the credit to Courtois to really come up with some big-time saves early on in that game. But in the end, you needed more from Timo Werner. That's just always going to be the case. Any team's best player, like Benzema, if Benzema hadn't scored and wouldn't have come up with that big time play in the first half, I would be saying you need more from Karim Benzema. That's your leader in the attack, pretty much your leader on the team if you consider like hierarchy and just like what he's done for that club. He's one of the most important pieces, and he needs to be stepping up. But obviously he had a great goal. He was able to at least tie it up. Werner was not able to do that. He wasn't even involved in the first goal, and it just never felt like his night. And that's been the case for a lot of this season, which is why when I talked about my top 10 Chelsea players, he was in the top 5, but he wasn't like one of the top 3 players on the team. He just hadn't been consistent enough, and this is one of those games to show you. Obviously, I love what you saw from Pulisic. Of course, they take him out for, I believe it was Hakim Ziyech. Eden Hazard coming into the game for a little bit to try to like mix things up kind of didn't work at all. I mean, he really couldn't find anything going, even though at the end of the game, Real Madrid were certainly putting a lot more pressure on Chelsea and were practically living in their final third. So the opportunities for a late game winner were certainly there for Real Madrid. They just couldn't seal the deal and get that second goal, which obviously now going into Chelsea and to Stamford Bridge, they're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage when you look at the aggregate. And now we're going to move to the other game, PSG versus Manchester City. And I love the way this game started. PSG were absolutely putting their will into the game and not allowing Man City to do whatever they wanted. They were controlling the ball for most of this game. Maybe for literally all of the first half, they were probably controlling this game and weren't allowing Man City to really get into a rhythm. They weren't allowing De Bruyne to get really solid crosses into the goal. And overall, that first half was as well as you could have played it by PSG. They get a goal from Marquinhos off a very solid corner kick from Angel Di Maria, and things were looking good. The momentum was on your side. You were holding Man City, but as the commentators were saying, and as you've seen it from Man City all season long, sure, a team might get a quick goal on them. It's happened time and time again. But Man City's ability to be able to calm down, not allow an early goal to really rattle them, settles them into the game. They start getting the momentum, and eventually they pounced on PSG. And that's exactly what happened in this first leg. PSG played, like I said, a great first half. Can't not have been better. Maybe you wanted a second goal, from either Mbappe or Neymar. But overall, the PSG's first half was very solid. Great defense. Good opportunity on the attack. Neymar had a very solid first half. Mbappe was a little quiet, but still having those those very solid runs, off those long balls, and was putting a little bit of pressure on Man City and causing them to have to play a little bit more deep. And the thing is, when it got into the second half, it kind of felt like same old from PSG. They play a little bit too passive, they a little bit scared to lose the lead, and it ends up hurting them. Like instead of playing a bit more spread out and giving Man City something to worry about in the back, they kind of moved Neymar and Mbappe more down into like the midfield so they can help a little bit out on defense. And that's a very passive approach, especially when you're playing a team like Man City. You only have one goal. The odds are you're going to need another goal. Especially since this is a home game. You're not away. This isn't a big away goal that you picked up. This is only a home goal. So you need to hold Man City, at least contain them. You can't allow them to just roam free, because at that point it's all Man City. Man City could, just once they're in a groove, once their players are feeling it, and they're nearly impossible to stop. And that's what we saw in that second half. I think the goals, in my opinion, were absolutely ridiculous. Which is the main reason why I was so petty that night, because the Kevin De Bruyne gets the first goal. And I should say his third goal in 3 appearances against PSG, dating back to that 2015-2016 tie that they had in the quarterfinals, I believe. De Bruyne gets another goal, and this one he actually was crossing it in, didn't hit anybody. Keylor Navas out of position, thinking someone was going to head it. It just bounces into the goal. Nobody stops it. It just from literally, I want to say 40 yards out, this guy just heaves it, crosses into the box perfectly into the goal. I was so upset. I couldn't believe it happened. I can't blame Navas, because I understand the instinct to think someone's going to head it, but it just glides over. It just glides over their head and just goes right into the goal. So that was a very, very sad moment for me when I saw that, because I knew that, especially the way that second half had started, things were going to start getting a little bit tough, and Man City were going to hold momentum, especially with the way we were playing, with how passive we were playing. So it was just a matter of time before they get that first goal. So at that point, I was thinking, this doesn't look good. We need to try to, hold momentum. But then we allow them to continue to move forward. They end up getting a penalty, a free kick just outside the box, and Riyad Mahrez, between the wall, scores the second goal for Man City. Between the wall, Kimpembe jumped to the side and allowed just enough room for the ball to squeeze through them and into the back of the net. That one was even more frustrating, and it's just poor discipline from PSG. Something that I thought was gone from them, but you saw that just ugliness turn its head our way, and man, we just didn't have any answers in that second half. And on top of that, we just hurt ourselves even more. Idrissa Gana Gueye in the 77th minute studs out, just destroyed Gundogan. I felt bad for him. He destroyed him, and it had to be a red card. But he gives a red card in the 77th minute. I was so glad we didn't give up another goal. That was all I was hoping for. I was like, if we get a goal, that would be a miracle. But just do not give up a third goal, because then it gets nearly impossible in the second leg. When you're going to the Etihad Stadium, you're gonna need to score 3 goals No ifs, ands, or buts. But now, like, you have to score 2. If you can hold them to a clean sheet, it makes it a little bit more manageable. You know, you're obviously just going to try to get that first goal, then things start rolling for you, and then obviously you're hoping for the best there. But it's just you're going to now need 2 goals in Etihad at least. That's at least. That's, you know, lowest score you can get to even, you know, have a chance to go to the final. And PSG can do it. I mean, Neymar, Mbappe, and I know this is a little PSG-centric. My apologies. I'm a PSG fan. I just talk that way. But, it's, you know, I give my respect to Man City, just their ability to, you know, be able to keep their head down, keep working. Eventually, they cracked the defense and was able to get a couple, you know, decent bounces that went their way, which, you know, again, it's not, they're going to take those. Why would they not? You know, PSG just needs to be more disciplined and actually be able to stop that. You know, it really bothers me. It just really bothers me the way that happened. But again, regardless, it happened. Man City defeated PSG 2-1. PSG goes into that second leg, you know, with a bit of a hill to climb. I don't, like, you know, because now I'm doing a preview for the second leg. I just don't think that they'll actually be able to pull it off and get 2 goals and hold them to a clean sheet. It just feels too good to be true. I feel like Man City's going to get 2 goals. And that's going to put us in a real big bind, because 2 goals, that means we need 3 goals, right? No. Yeah, we would need 3. Because if we get third goal, let's say, because, okay, if we get 3 away goals, that's all right. So technically it wouldn't be that bad, because if they scored 2, we'd still have to score 3, but because then we'd go through on away goals. So I guess it kind of goes in our favor. A high-scoring game does certainly go into our favor, but I just don't want it to happen. But again, Man City's defense makes it nearly impossible. Like, their defense is actually very, very good. I have to give them credit. It's very good, and it makes it very tough for a guy like Mbappe, Neymar to kind of get free and do whatever they want. It's very difficult, and I'm very nervous for that second leg. I hope PSG can pull it off. I'm on that side that doubts that they can actually do it. Like, unfortunately, I can't. I'm not gonna lie to you guys and just be like, oh yeah, I would. You know, I'm thinking PSG 2-0. No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna be realistic here. I really don't think they'll be able to pull it off. If they do, I'll be ecstatic. I'll never be happier that I was wrong. Never, because that would be incredible to beat, you know, Man City in a 2-legged tie, like, just, you know, proving all the haters wrong. I just really hope they can do it, but I just don't see it. And then for Chelsea and Chelsea and Real Madrid, I actually see Chelsea moving on. I feel like the way they were able to control that game really, you know, impressed me in a lot of ways. The way they're able to manage that pressure that Real Madrid was giving them very, very much impressed me. So I think they're going to do it. I think they'll get an extra goal. Maybe it goes 1-1, it goes to extra time, which I think it would be in Real Madrid's favor because of all those veterans they have. But it's just, I'm leaning in Chelsea's favor. I really am, to make it to the Champions League final, which is absolutely crazy to even think. But man, good on Tuchel, man, to really turn that organization around. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the Europa League right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Champions League first leg recap. We went over the 2 legs that happened this past week. We talked about all the exciting action that happened in those Champions League games, and I gave a little bit of a preview of the second legs. So if you guys want to go check that out, please go ahead and do so. But now we're going to be talking about the Europa League first leg action. We had a very exciting game in that, well, technically I actually liked both legs. I thought it was 2 very even matchups. Like, I thought Roma and Manchester United are the 2 best clubs left. And for Villarreal and Arsenal, I thought those were, they're pretty much at the same level. So I was excited to see both of these legs play out. And man, one took a turn that I never would have seen coming. Like, I know that Manchester United are easily the favorites to win this entire competition. I get it. But Roma are a very, very good team. Obviously, they haven't been the same, in the second half of the season, but they're still very strong. I get it. Compared to Manchester United, they're not that good. But to lose 6-2, Roma lost 6-2, and I'm pretty sure this was in Old Trafford, so it's 6 home goals, but it's still 6 goals. Like, Roma need 4 goals now and need to hold Man United to a clean sheet to move on. That's not happening. The odds of that happening are very low. Like, Roma are pretty much 1 foot out of the semifinal of the Europa League already. And the craziest thing about it is they actually started off pretty well. Roma were down, early in this game with a Bruno Fernandes goal, which was set up perfectly by Edison Cavani, who I've been saying should be the number 1 choice at striker for this team. If this game doesn't prove it to you, I don't know what will. I mean, the guy can do it all. He's such a high level striker that doesn't quit. He's always working hard. He's a very underrated passer, as you saw in this game. I mean, the way he set up Bruno Fernandes on the angle that he had was very, very clean and falling down, I should say. And then he also picked up 2 goals, and 2 pretty good goals at that. Goals that you would expect from a number 9, even though one of them was a tap-in. The other one, the first one, I believe, is the one I'm thinking of. That's the one that was just so nasty. I believe it was set up by Bruno Fernandes, but still, it was just a beautiful game overall for Manchester United, getting 4 goals from Bruno Fernandes and Edison Cavani, 2 apiece, of course, and then getting Paul Pogba and Mason Greenwood at the end of the game to kind of put the cherry on top and pretty much have Manchester United 1 foot into that final of the Europa League. It's just such an incredible performance from them, and it was just like all game long. I know they went down early to Roma. They went down 2-1, and were down 2-1 heading into the half. Roma had some momentum, and you got goals from Pellegrini on a penalty, which I thought was well deserved, and then Edin Dzeko putting in another goal not shortly after, like about 15 or 17 minutes afterwards, and it kind of felt like Roma were getting on a roll, but then that defense that was so good last season just, in my opinion, kind of fell apart. It was not the same the defense that I would have expected from Roma, and specifically Chris Smalling. There were so many mistakes that I saw from Chris Smalling. I actually like Ibanez way more this season, and I was ranting so much in the offseason, like when we were in the fall, talking about who was going to get picked up. I was begging Roma to just make that deal for Chris Smalling official and just get him permanently. And now, I mean, he's still a serviceable starter, but he's not having that same impact he had last season. And then, you go over to Manchester United, and they just look so good. Like, David De Gea between the sticks is very solid. It's not the old David De Gea who was considered, a great. He was going to be a great. Obviously, he's kind of died down a little bit since then. But, I mean, that back line of Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, and Luke Shaw is about as good a back line as you can find in the world. I mean, it's got everything. It's got defense. It's got some solid passing. Luke Shaw has turned into one of the best left backs in the entire world this season. Wan-Bissaka obviously does his thing defensively, gives you a little bit offensively. You'd wish he'd get that a little bit better, because then he'd probably be considered one of the best, fullbacks in the world as well. It's just that his defense is so good that he's still in that discussion. But then you got Lindelof and Maguire, who are very solid with the ball at their feet, very hard, aggressive tacklers, don't let you really get anything. And then that midfield of McTominay and Fred has really been killing it. I mean, their ability to control the midfield has been very vital. I mean, Fred's defense as well has been very strong. I love McTominay's technical skills. Even for a big guy, he really shows he can get around and really, create things for himself and get others involved, obviously, because he's a pretty solid passer as well. And then, I can't talk enough about that front four, I would say, of Manchester United. I mean, Marcus Rashford had kind of a quiet game, but you still felt his presence. Roma still had to, put almost two guys on him to kind of, hold down or contain that speed and pace that he has. But of course, Bruno Fernandes, he's going to get his. He always does. Edinson Cavani's going to get into the spots that he needs to in order to score. And that's why I love that combination. I mean, those guys have been playing so well together. Bruno Fernandes is such a great playmaker. Like, he could score goals in a lot of different ways. Obviously, he's, one of the main penalty taker for this team. He got one in this game, of course, but he can also score goals in a variety of ways and make it look easy at that. And the fact that as Edinson Cavani, both those guys can play off each other so well. You saw it today, or not today, when this game was played on Thursday, that Cavani can also set up himself and can really get other people involved, and he's also super unselfish. One thing I love the most about him, and what I loved so much about him when he was in PSG, is that he never really cared about himself. He cared more about the team, obviously. And anybody that's gonna hear me say that is gonna say, "Oh, but that whole thing with Neymar." But I mean, you can easily say that a lot of that was Neymar, and I'm a super fan of Neymar. I mean, I'm a PSG fan. How can I not be? But I understand when one guy, especially Cavani, who's never caused any problems, when that happened, I had a feeling it was more Neymar's side than anything. But I'm getting off topic. I just really do love what Cavani brings to this team, and it's literally a guy that you can feed it to in the middle of that crowded box, and you got guys around like McTominay, Fred, Fernandes, even Rashford and Pogba can get him involved in this game, and Pogba getting a goal as well, and a nice one of those classic Pogba goals that you're not really surprised from, but yeah, he just played well, and then and really the whole Roma team just had a tough time really getting it going, and on top of that, they were dealing with a lot of injuries. Veretout was out early in this game. It was not even 10 minutes has gone by, and he had to get subbed off the game. And then same thing happened to Pau Lopez, the goalkeeper. Went up for a ball, came down awkwardly, and was hurting. And I think it was a save that he made. No, it was something like that. It was a save that he made that I guess it tweaked his arm poorly, and he had to get taken out of the game. So you're without one of your best midfielders, and obviously your number one goalkeeper. For a big game like this, things are going to go wrong, and they did go very, very wrong. I was really not expecting it, but when I saw the game, I saw the situation they were in with losing those two very important pieces of their team. I can understand it. It's a very tough situation, and they just didn't handle it well. But you got to give it to Manchester United coming into this game, proving that they're going to be favorites of this competition. When they end up in the final. And nobody can really stop them. They are on a one-way ticket. There you go, Steve. To the final. And now let's go to the other game. It was a little bit more competitive, though. Man, Arsenal, and that was a first half Arsenal would love to forget, or you can even say first hour of the game is something Arsenal would like to forget, because they were not getting anything going. They only had 9 shots in this game, 2 on target. And those 2 on target came in the last 30 minutes of the game. It maybe even less than that. I want to say like the last 20 minutes of the game, because they just couldn't get anything going. They could barely get any solid shots in the box. Villarreal were doing a very, very good job at containing them, making things difficult so that they couldn't really have their free-flowing attack like they like, with Saka and finding Lacazette or Aubameyang in the box. It just wasn't the same. It really wasn't. And Smith Rowe wasn't having that same kind of impact. Same thing with Odegaard. Who else was in that starting lineup? I know it was Saka. Oh, Pepe as well. Pepe was having a tough time getting it going in that first half, and I've been really impressed with Pepe, especially in this game. Even though there was some, like, a crazy, a move that he had that he drew a penalty, but then it was called back because he had a handball. I thought it was incredible the way he was able to keep that, controlled, but then obviously realized later that it ended up being because of a handball, so it didn't really count. But it's his hustle, his work rate. He never gives up on a play. He's always trying to fight hard for his team, and that's one of the reasons why I'm absolutely in love with Pepe recently. I really feel like he's starting to live up to that high dollar that they paid for. He just needs to keep getting more time. He needs to continue to play consistent. And Arsenal didn't even have a starting 9 in this game. Lacazette, I guess maybe he was injured and wasn't able to play, but they still left Aubameyang on the bench. Man, honestly, I haven't been following Arsenal enough. I know that there were some disputes with Aubameyang and some off the field stuff that made him kind of fall down in the pecking order. But man, what a down season from Aubameyang. I mean, so many people were expecting him to be one of the best strikers in the Premier League, kind of challenging guys like Harry Kane, but it's just he really, and even like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he was supposed to be in that range, but he has just fallen off a cliff. Lacazette has been a much better striker this season for Arsenal than Aubameyang has, and it really shows you in this game. They decide to use Smith Rowe as their false 9 and kind of have Pepe and Saka do most of the attacking, kind of going in off the wings, and left Aubameyang on the bench. I mean, he still ended up getting subbed in for Smith Rowe later in the game. I think it was somewhere on the 60th minute to kind of add an extra attacking presence. And the game did change after that. I mean, Pepe started getting more room, which is what got him, the space to what is it? No, it wasn't him. It was Bukayo Saka. He was also playing very impressive. I've also been very impressed with Saka this season. I knew he was one of those, young guns that were going to have a really solid season. I had him as one of my top 10 young players in the world or something like that. I think I had him 7th because I know that Saka has a lot of potential, and he's showing it this season. He's been one of their best, dribblers and just guys that can get up the field and really cause problems for the defense of the opponents. And he did that in this game. He drew 2 penalties. The first one was waved off. The second one wasn't, and that's the one that allowed Nicolas Pepe to score and give Arsenal that very crucial away goal that they're going to be needing after once they go into I forgot what it's called, but whatever, their home. I don't know. I forgot the stadium name of Arsenal. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't think of it. Obviously, you guys can bash me in the comments later, but I mean, for now, I'm just I was impressed with the way Arsenal were able to hold on. Oh, and I didn't even mention, but in the 57th minute of that second half, Dani Ceballos picked up a red card. It was technically a second yellow, but the call was absolutely ridiculous. There was no reason he should have been given a red card there. He wasn't even aiming to slide on his foot. He was just running. The guy just slid underneath him and got caught. The guy didn't put his studs into the foot, nothing like that. And I understand sometimes they take intent out of it, but it's in that situation, especially in this kind of game, you have to think of intent. He didn't mean to give a second yellow and for him to get a red card that early in the second half. It felt like it was the writing on the wall for Arsenal. It really did. It felt like Villarreal, and they had opportunities. Villarreal in total in this game, they had 20 shots. No, oh my gosh, it felt like 20. But they had 9 shots, 6 on target, so it felt like a lot of shots from Villarreal, but it was just more their efficiency when they got those looks. It was they were much more direct and on target with those shots, and that's what made Villarreal feel so much better in this game. but Arsenal were able to hold on in that final, 35, 40 minutes of the game and keep Villarreal to only 2 goals. And that really could be the difference in this tie, because if Arsenal come back and are able to score a goal, it would be a goal. They really only need a goal now, because it could have easily been they're down 3-0, going into the second leg, but they fought back. They were able to get a penalty, score a very huge goal, and give them a slim chance of moving on to the final, which I think they can do it. But Villarreal are a very well-coached team with Unai Emery there, and he has a lot of experience in the Europa League, and he's won it a bunch of times. So I kind of got to give the edge to Villarreal here, since they have the advantage. They looked very solid. They even had opportunities to score an extra goal, just couldn't get past Bernd Leno a few times and that Arsenal defense. So this could have been a much bigger game, but the defenses were able to hold on, and Arsenal was able to get themselves a very crucial away goal. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 leagues, get into each of those leagues, see where they're at, where the title races are at. I know a couple are really heating up. It's getting funner and funner as we get closer to the end of the season. We're going to talk scenarios right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Europa League first legs. We talked about that thrashing that Manchester United gave to Roma and that very heated battle between Villarreal and Arsenal. And I also gave a little bit of a preview for that second leg. So if you guys want to go check that out, please go ahead and do so. But now we're going to be talking about the domestic leagues. We're going to get into each of the top 5 leagues, talk about where each team is in the standings. We're going to get into some of the big games that happened this week as well. So yeah, let's just get started with the Premier League. We're in match day 34, and we had some big clubs taking on their competition and taking care of business. You had Tottenham defeating Sheffield United 4-0, as you'd expect them to. Arsenal defeating Newcastle 2-0, as you'd expect them to. Newcastle got a red card late in the game, but you got a goal from Mohamed El-Neni. Pierre, Emerick, Aubameyang, those guys picking up goals. Chelsea defeating Fulham 2-0. 2 goals. You got a brace from Kai Havertz. That's pretty solid. I think that's his first brace in a Chelsea uniform. Big time game from him. Leicester City actually dropping points after Jannik Vestergaard, the center back for Southampton, picking up a red card early in this game. Southampton were still able to score the opening goal from a penalty from James Ward-Prowse, but then were not able to hold on to that lead as Johnny Evans scored a goal for Leicester City in the 68th minute. But Leicester, man, with all the possession, all the shots, were not able to get by Southampton and only get 1 point out of that encounter, and kind of puts them in a little bit of a... I mean, not that it really matters, although it is kind of close. I mean, they're only 5 points ahead of West Ham for the 5th spot. Yeah, so if they don't get their act together, I mean, they only have 2 wins in their last 5. each of these other teams have 3 wins at least in the last 5, so they've picked up a little bit of ground on Leicester City. They do not want the same thing to happen this year as it's happened in years past, where they, just fall apart at the end and miss out on Champions League football. They deserve it this season. They played very well all season long, and I would hate for them to lose that in the final weeks of the season. But yeah, that's a big draw for Leicester City. Only a 1-1 draw over Southampton, especially with them having that man advantage for all of that game. Man City defeating Crystal Palace 2-0, as you'd expect them to. Aston Villa actually defeated Everton 2-1 after Ollie Watkins scores the opening goal in the 13th minute. You had DCL getting his goal. I believe that might be his 20th of the Premier League season right after. But then El Ghazi in the 80th minute scores the winner for Aston Villa, gives them a big-time 3 points, and really hurts Everton's chances of getting into that top 5. They're now 6 points behind West Ham for 5th place. And with 3 draws and a loss in their last 5 games, they just have not been able to do enough to get anywhere near them. They've kind of fallen apart here at the end. Let's see what else we got. I said Arsenal, Wolves, and West Brom 1-1 draw. Really not that, surprising considering Wolves being so inconsistent this season. West Ham defeating Burnley 2-1. Big 3 points for them. They got a brace from Mikel Antonio in the first half. Chris Wood scored the opening goal in the 19th minute via penalty for Burnley. But West Ham were able to get through with 3 points. Very big 3 points as they're trying to hold on to that 5th and final spot. Maybe even creep into a Champions League spot. Imagine that for West Ham United. But yeah, those are all the results that we got this week. I also missed Brighton versus Leeds United, a 2-0 win for Brighton. But I mean, you look at this table, and we already know Man City, they're winning this title. It's the 13th. Even if Man United win in this game on hand that they have, they'd be within 10 points with 4 games to go. Mathematically it's not over, but Man City have the title of the Premier League. Man United going to have to settle for second, and obviously need to still play, but they're locked into a Champions League spot. Obviously, I talked about Leicester City. They have, they're 5 points ahead of West Ham for that Europa League spot. So if West Ham get a little hot and Leicester City fall apart, there can definitely be some changes there in that top 5. Chelsea, same thing. I mean, below 3 wins in their last 4. They're playing well down the stretch. They just need to keep it up if they want to hold on to that Champions League spot, because they got West Ham right behind them. They also got 3 wins in the last 5 games. They're playing pretty well. They got to continue to, find the right, what they've been doing all season and win games, because they got some guys right behind them. Tottenham behind them only 2 points. Liverpool behind them 4 points. And then obviously I talked about Everton behind them 6 points, but you got Tottenham, Liverpool right on your tail. They got to keep it up if they want to hold on to that 5th and final spot for the Europa League. But now let's move on to the Bundesliga, where we had some exciting action. We had RB Leipzig defeating. Is that the last game that happened? I'm pretty sure. That was a while ago. Oh, that must mean we have the DFB Pokal, if I'm not mistaken. I think I do remember seeing a game of that happening recently so it happened a little bit ago. It happened 2 days ago. You had Borussia Dortmund defeating the team that's been kind of upsetting everyone, Holstein Kiel. Don't know if I said that name right, but Dortmund absolutely obliterated them, made sure that their Cinderella story ended here. And then of course on the other side, RB Leipzig defeating Werder Bremen in extra time. Emil Forsberg with a late winner to get RB Leipzig into the final. And now you're going to get a Dortmund versus RB Leipzig final for the DFB Pokal Cup. Exciting game. I mean, you got 2 young teams there. Although I think I might be siding with RB Leipzig, because they've just been playing very consistent this season. They look very solid and on both attack and defense. And I really like what I'm seeing from RB Leipzig, but that's going to be a very exciting end to the DFB Pokal campaign. But when you look at the Bundesliga, yes, technically Bayern are 7 points ahead of RB Leipzig, but that's enough, especially with only, 3 games to go. There's about 4 or 5 games left to go for these teams. Actually, no. Those are some makeup games. So, yeah, it's actually 3 games to go for RB Leipzig. So to make up 7 points in 3 games, that's not happening. Statistically, obviously, Bayern, don't have the title, but theoretically, they absolutely do. It is Bayern Munich winning the title for the Bundesliga once again because of their ridiculous offense. They had 86 goals scored. The next best is Dortmund with 66. That kind of tells you the disparity in attack that you see here in the Bundesliga. And RB Leipzig are going to have to settle for that second place spot. They have made some distance between third, but then there is a battle going on for the last couple Champions League spots. You got Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt kind of, messing around a little bit. Both of them have a couple losses in their last 4 games, while Dortmund are on a 4-game win streak, only 1 point behind Frankfurt, 2 points behind Wolfsburg for one of those final Champions League spots. Can those two teams hold on and win enough games, get enough points to stay in that top 4? I called Dortmund out of the race for the Champions League. I really did. I didn't think Frankfurt or Wolfsburg, they were just playing so consistently. But now with a couple losses in their last couple games and Dortmund on fire now, 4 straight wins, it's closer and closer by the minute. I don't think Leverkusen are going to do enough to make that distance from Dortmund for a top 5 spot. So you pretty much got your European selections pretty much locked here with Bayern, RB Leipzig, Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, and Dortmund. But who's going to end up in that Champions League spot? Who's going to end up in the Europa League spot? It's going to be very interesting to see how that finishes down the stretch. Of course, maybe that big game between Frankfurt and Dortmund really tells you a lot because Frankfurt were able to come out with a win there, and that really makes the difference here. And it's going to be very interesting how this campaign ends up. I will definitely be keeping track of that so we can talk about more of that. Next, let's go to Serie A, where obviously, of course, the title is also decided. Inter Milan just continuing to just wreck everyone in the Serie A. They have now a 13-point lead on Atalanta, who are in second place. You got Milan, who have dropped all the way down now to 4, possibly 5th, depending on how these next couple weeks turn out. They went from a team who had the top spot in Serie A to a possible Europa League finish, and worst case scenario, even fall out of the top 5. They're only 5 points ahead of Lazio, who are in 6th place. Again, the odds of them making up those 5 points in these last 3 games, or is it 4 games? I think it's 4 games in Serie A. It's not very likely, but it could absolutely happen. And same thing for Atalanta and Juventus. They're at 69 points each, all 3 of those teams. Napoli are at 5th place with 67, so they certainly have a chance to get into that Champions League, so they're going to be fighting hard for that. What games do we have? We have Napoli taking on Spezia. Let's see, Juventus and Milan. Ooh, that's a big game. And Atalanta take on Parma. Then you got Napoli taking on Udinese. Atalanta versus Benevento. Milan and Torino. Who Juve playing? Juve are playing Sassuolo. And then last we got Juve versus Inter. Oh, Napoli versus Fiorentina. Milan versus Cagliari. Lazio versus Roma. That's going to be a tough game. And then Atalanta versus Milan. Juve versus Bologna. Napoli versus Verona. So Napoli have a big chance, man. They don't have any big games coming up. So they can certainly squeak into one of these Champions League spots. I would not be surprised, but wow, who would be left out? Juve, Milan, Atalanta. All teams that have been playing great this season, but I could certainly see Napoli making a run for one of those Champions League spots, but they're at the disadvantage right now, down 2 points to each of those 3 teams. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up. But you got to give credit to Inter Milan to just absolutely dominate the season. But this is the best thing about soccer. Even though the title's over, you still have all these really juicy storylines that you want to really talk about and see through to the end. It's really not over till it's over, and I love that about soccer. So now let's move on to La Liga, where, of course, things have been heating up for some time now. I just see here Sevilla lost a big game to Athletic Club. They lost 1-0. Oh, that's going to hurt their chances there, because especially with Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid all winning their games. Real Sociedad lose to Huesca. That's not surprising there. Villarreal defeated Getafe, and when you look at the standings now, you got Atletico Madrid with 76 points at the top. Real Madrid and Barcelona right behind them with 74. Sevilla now with 70 points. That loss could have had 73, been right behind them, but now with that loss, I think it now takes them out of any chance for a title contention. With only, 3-4 games to go, I really don't think they'll have a chance there. But it is a three-way race for the title. Atletico Madrid with the lead right now, but man, it's good. But I do like that these 4 spots for the Champions League are locked. No one, it's already been decided. These 4 teams are going to the Champions League. I'm excited to see Sevilla there with Papu Gomez, see what they can do. Real Sociedad and Villarreal are still fighting for those Europa League spots. Real Betis with 5 straight draws are behind them by just 1 and 2 points respectfully. That's going to be also a very exciting finish there. Don't think Granada can do enough to really inch in there. I mean, they're 7 points behind 6th place. Yeah, I don't think that's happening, but yeah, Real Betis, Villarreal, and Real Sociedad, one of those 2 teams are not going to be in the Europa League next season, and it's going to be very, very. I don't want to say that word again. I've been saying it so much this segment. I'm just excited to see how those plan out. So I'm just going to go with that word, and we're going to move on. Let's go to Liga, which is the one I'm so excited to watch. PSG, big game versus Lens, a team that has been in the top 5 for most of this season. They've been battling with Marseille and Rennes for one of those top 5 spots, and PSG were able to come out on top, defeating them 2-1. You got goals from Neymar, Marquinhos. Lens got a goal in the 61st minute to kind of make this a game, but it was all she wrote there because PSG were able to defeat them 2-1, getting much needed 3 points, especially with Lille taking care of business versus Nice, getting a goal in the 13th minute from Burak Yilmaz, one of the best pickups in all of Europe. Then Mehmet Salik picked up a second goal in the 56th minute, kind of that was all she wrote for Lille there, getting all 3 points. You had a big game from Monaco and Lyon. This game was going to decide whether Monaco was going to stay in that title race or if Lyon and Monaco were going to battle it out for one of those last Champions League spots. And in the end, Lyon were able to get a late winner from Cherki. This game was incredible. Kevin Volland opening the scoring up with a very solid goal, getting by the back line of Lyon, opening it up for Monaco. Memphis Depay scoring a really nasty goal, getting by multiple defenders, getting a decent deflection, but still, he worked his way to that goal to tie it up. Then Marcelo scores in the 77th minute, gives Lyon the lead. Then Ben Yedder, late in the game, gets a penalty with a man advantage because, Maxence Cacaret in the 70th minute picked up a red card. So Lyon were at a man disadvantage for the end of this game, and they picked up 2 goals with a man disadvantage. One of them being the game winner in the 89th minute to pick up a late goal at that time in the game, just huge from Lyon. It actually sparked a fight at the end where multiple guys were given red cards. I think it's 4 total. 2 on Monaco, 2 on Lyon were given red cards after the game was over. You could tell how much this meant to both of these clubs. Now Monaco with they're now 71 points, 5 points behind Lille, 4 behind PSG. Kind of looks like with that loss, it kind of takes them out of that title race contention. But Lyon and Monaco now, just 1 point separating these 2 teams, are fighting for that final Champions League spot. It's going to be a very, very exciting 2 races here. The one for the title between PSG and Lille. Come on. Obviously, that is as exciting as it gets. Lille, that up-and-coming team, have a lot of good young talent trying to prove that they can win a league on season, which I would be, either way, I'd be proud because I'm a big fan of Ligue 1. I want this league to continue to get a lot of positive news and just, this kind of race is what brings that. So I'm always excited about that, but I cannot think that PSG won't find a way to get through. Lille get a draw here. PSG win out the rest of the season. They need to. They can't drop any more points. 4 straight wins, though. I feel PSG can do it. And between Monaco and Lyon, I think I'm going to lean Monaco's way. I think their attack is so potent. Both teams are playing very well, but even though Monaco just lost, I think they're going to be able to come out on top and win. And honestly, I think they're going to win out, and they're going to end up over Lyon by about a point, maybe 2 or 3 points. So you're going to see Lille, PSG, and Monaco into the Champions League next season. But man, how exciting was this end of the year race between all these teams? I absolutely love the competition in Liga again. It just feels right, and I hope it's a thing to come over the next couple seasons, because it really needs that. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 Arsenal players this season. Right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the top 5 domestic leagues in Europe. We went over the Bundesliga, Serie A, Premier League, and of course the highly competitive La Liga and Liga. At least we have 2 really good leagues going on right now. The title races are still up for grabs there. The other 3, it's already said and done. But again, if you guys want to hear what I had to say about each of the top 5 leagues, please go ahead and check out the last segment. But now we're going to be talking about the top 10 Arsenal players this season. And this list was a little bit tougher to put together. There were a couple guys that I had to leave off this list that had me, kind of wondering, like Dani Ceballos, Thomas Partey, maybe even Gabriel. But those guys were just a bit too inconsistent this season and just did not make my list. Maybe even a David Luiz, maybe, but no. Just wasn't going to happen. I feel very strong about this list. The thing is, man, this season for Arsenal has been so up and down, and it just makes sense that they're literally mid-tier. They're 9th in the Premier League this season so far. No chance at a Europa League champion. There's no European football for Arsenal next season. And hopefully, with a lot of these young guys that they have on their team, you got a 19-year-old Bukayo Saka, you got 25-year-old Rob Holding, Nicolas Pepe, 25, Kieran Tierney, 23, Gabriel, 23. You got a lot of young players on this list that can grow up together. Hopefully, they can just find some. I like the strikers, but man, it's always just felt like their finishing has not been what you would expect from a lot of these top striking options. But still, this season was very up and down for them, and I'm assuming that there is some kind of plan coming up this summer, because this is not the kind of season that Arsenal was looking forward to. But of course, all those financial troubles, it's going to be hard seeing this team really make a big shakeup in the roster. But let's just get right into the top 10. I want to start off at number 10, the young Emile Smith-Rowe. He has played such an important part to this team's whole concept. His ability to control the midfield, his passing, it's all absolutely top tier. His ability to play make for his teammates. In 28 matches played, he's got 2 goals and 7 assists, an 87.3 pass completion of about 30 passes a game. He gets guys involved, 1 key pass a game, and he also contributes on the defensive end a bit, 0.8 interceptions per game. He does a little bit of everything, but the number one thing that you get from Emile Smith-Rowe is his work rate, his passing ability, and he hustles on the defensive end as well, which is what I love. But it's really just his ability to control the ball in midfield. Even with a bunch of guys around him, he has that slitheriness about him to be able to just get by them with very solid technical skills. I'm surprised he's not one of the best dribblers on this team. He's got about 16 dribbles on the season, 28 matches played, so that's about about 0.5, 0.6 dribbles per game. And you know, he's very, very solid, I feel. But at 20 years old, he's just got so much room to grow. And I feel like he's going to turn out into a very, very solid player. Just going to need to have more consistent time next season. And I think he will, because the second half of the season, it's been all Emile Smith-Rowe in the middle of that pitch for Arsenal. I know Martin Odegaard also came in, but he was a bit inconsistent and didn't really have like that same impact that a guy like Jesse Lingard had for West Ham. Martin Odegaard did not have that same impact here for Arsenal, which is why he didn't scoop in that top 10. Just not enough games played and not that big of an impact in those games. But for Emile Smith-Rowe, I mean, just a heck of a season for him. 7 assists, which is tied for the lead on the team with Willian, and I feel like they need more of that in the middle of the pitch to really get them going, because they have a lot of attacking options. They just don't have any like dynamic playmakers to get them the ball and in the right position. Emile Smith-Rowe is one of them, and he's just going to continue to get better and better. He comes in at number 10. At number 9, I have Nicolas Pepe, and I've been really impressed with Pepe, especially the second half of the season. He's been played a lot more. He's primarily played in those cup matches, but then he's been playing more in Arteta's like regular lineups, and he's been contributing for them, man. 43 matches played. He's got 11 goals, 5 assists, a 74.3 pass completion of about 22 passes a game, and he does a bit of everything. 0.7 key passes a game, 0.7 tackles, 1.2 dribbles a game, 1.1 aerial duels. He can do a bit of everything, and he's such a quick, pacey player. He creates a lot of trouble for back lines, and I the one thing I've probably noticed the most from Nicolas Pepe this second half of the season, it's his patience on the ball, his ability to not get overworked, but it's like just not allow the pressure of defenses to get to him and just pick out the right play. That's what I've always wanted from Nicolas Pepe, to not want, you know, I feel like that big pay, that big price tag that they paid for him got to his head, made him feel like he had to do everything. That's not the way it's played. Now he plays with his team a lot more, and it's gotten him better opportunities this season, and he's been very, very solid when it comes to finishing. 11 goals on the season, definitely his best season as an Arsenal player, and I feel like it's just going to get better and better as the years go on. So I don't think it's time to, you don't have to love Nicolas Pepe, but you do have to respect that he's gotten better with his game as his years with Arsenal have gone on. And that's why he comes in at number 9. At number 8, I have Hector Bellerin. A mainstay there at Arsenal, has gotten a lot more playing time this season. He's got 33 matches played. He has a goal and 3 assists. And the one area that I feel like he's improved a bit more this season, which was one of his biggest weaknesses, was his defense. It's a lot more IQ-wise. He's getting into the right positions. He's rarely beat off the dribble. It still happens. I mean, it's Hector Bellerin, but the fact that he also gives you, a very solid attacker, someone who you can get the ball to, and he makes the right decisions. He's got 0.8 key passes per game, so he gets guys in the spots to score. 3 assists a game also shows you, he can get guys involved. And an 83.1 pass completion percentage of about 47 passes a game. That's very impressive for a fullback, and just goes to show that he's very smart with the ball at his feet. And the fact that his defense got a bit better this season made me lean in Hector Bellerin's favor just a bit, though he did drop in my rankings a bit. I had him somewhere around 6, but then there was a couple guys I just felt like did a little bit more than him, just maybe not as consistent, but I was very impressed with Hector Bellerin's season, and it's already set in stone that he's going to be leaving this summer, so it'll be interesting to see which team picks him up. Low-key thinking PSG. They were linked to him before, and they certainly could use help in that fullback position, and I think Hector Bellerin would be perfect for their style of play. So, Hector Bellerin at number 8, very solid player, very solid season. At number 7, we have Pierre, Emerick, Aubameyang. Honestly, it's obviously been a down year for him, but he's still got 15 goals, 3 assists. He does a little bit of everything on that attacking end, especially when he's in the box, getting those opportunities to score. But it just did not have any sort of feel like last season, where he was the savior for Arsenal. It was nothing like that. It actually felt he wasn't even the best striker on his team. It just felt there was more things happening off the field than on it. The inconsistencies. Like, a guy of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's skill should be number one on this list. It's not even, he should be number one, but the inconsistencies and just everything that happened throughout this entire season made me drop him a bit, because he didn't help out the team, in my opinion, at all this season, and should be considered one of the main reasons why they're a mid-tier team, because they were expecting him to be their star. I was expecting him to be their star, and he's kind of been, a backseat player, someone who, he comes in, he can score goals, he's an electric player, but it's just he doesn't give it to you for all 90 minutes, and I hate that. And that's why he's been coming off the bench primarily over his last couple games. He just doesn't give you that same, energy that you would expect from a guy like Alexander Lacazette. And that's why Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang comes in at number 7 and does not inch up any higher than that. And at number 6, I have probably one of the most important pieces to this team, Bernd Leno. Having a little bit of a down year in the Premier League, has about a 66 save percentage or 67 in all competitions. He does get that up to 70, which is pretty solid for a goalkeeper. 13 clean sheets and 44 appearances. An 80.7 pass completion percentage of about 29 passes is very solid for a goalkeeper. Means he can get the ball, pass the ball around. Is a decent sweeper keeper. You can trust him with the ball at his feet, and that's very valuable in this in this new age of soccer. You need goalkeepers that can handle the ball, can pass them around. That's why Ederson is so valuable. And Bernd Leno's one of those guys, and he's certainly taken it up a notch this season, and he's going to be Arsenal's number one clear-cut choice at goalkeeper for years to come, because Bernd Leno is a very good goalkeeper to have. He's borderline top 10 in the world, because he does so many things very well. And he's just a very solid player to have behind the sticks. A lot of experience there. Someone that can, organize that back line. He's got a voice on that team. So all those things tied together make Bernd Leno a very, very vital piece of this team. And he just doesn't inch up anymore because he had a bit of a down year in terms of stopping shots. But he's still a very solid goalkeeper, and one any team would be very lucky to have. At number 5, we have a man who has stepped it up in a big way, Rob Holding, the defender for Arsenal. 34 matches played, he's got 1 assist, but his ability on the ball, he's got almost a 90% pass completion of about 51 passes a game. He's got 0.8 tackles, 1.4 blocks a game, 4.6 clearances, and 2.1 aerial duels won per game. The man is just an absolute anchor for that Arsenal defense. Something that they've been looking for so many years. They signed Gabriel dos Santos. I believe he was from Porto, I might have gotten that wrong, but I know he was from one of those. I think it was the Portugal League or something, and he was a very sought after defender. But he was just so inconsistent this season. Getting caught out of position very often. And he does got 3 goals and 1 assist, but I feel like Rob Holding was certainly the much better defender throughout this whole entire season. He's put in very solid performances over the last couple weeks as well. And he, to me, should be the clear-cut number 1 choice at center back for Mikel Arteta next season. He has been just getting better and better. He's 25 years old, and for defenders, you got to be a little bit more patient with them. And I feel like Rob Holding certainly has, all the tools that you need to be a very good defender. Ball skills, a tough defender, some, a hustle, work rate, up the wazoo. And he's a very good player, and I expect Rob Holding to get even better and be a vital piece and captain for Arsenal next season. And that's why he comes in at number 5. At number 4, we have the ever-improving Kieran Tierney. 33 matches played, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists, and it's just what he brings to that team on a nightly basis. It's just hard to really quantify how much he means to them. His ability to, his old school skills of being able to get by players with very minimal, technical skills. Like, he's got technical skills. He can get by guys, but it's his pace. He just knows how to get around players. He knows how to utilize angles. and he's a very, very solid passer. He's the best crosser on this team. I'm surprised he only has 3 assists. The amount of shot creating chances he made for all these attackers of Arsenal, like I said, it goes to show the finishing ability that they have, which is like close to nothing. But still, Kieran Tierney got him in those positions, was always a vital piece. I mean, almost a 76% pass completion percentage of about 49 passes a game, 1.1 key passes a game, which almost leads this team. I think it actually does lead the team. 1.1 key passes, 1.4 blocks, 2.9 clearances, and he's got, like I said, the technical skills, 0.9 dribbles, successful dribbles per game. He just does a little bit of everything. And it's his hustle on the defensive end as well, because if he didn't hustle on that end and was a solid defender, I probably wouldn't have put him this high. But it's the fact that he has both of those skills. He's, just does it all on a very high level. And he's only, 23 years old? He's going to turn 24 soon, but just the Scotland player, man, I mean, just continues to get better. I can't wait to see next season. Certainly deserves to be a top 5 player for Arsenal this year with just how consistent he was. He was always the guy that most games you would say he's the one that was doing more positive things for Arsenal with his ability to go off the wings and deliver some very pinpoint crosses. So Kieran Tierney, I got to get that right. Very, very solid season, and I just see better things up ahead for him. At number 3, we have the ever consistent, and I wouldn't say consistent, but very dependable Granit Xhaka. 43 matches played, he's got a goal and 2 assists. But it's really his passing ability and his defense. 90% pass completion of about 62 passes a game. By far the best distributor on Arsenal. His passing ability really makes things easier for everybody on the team. It makes it, their ability to control the tempo of the game much easier. And then you look at his defense, 1.1 tackles a game, 0.9 interceptions, 1.5 clearances, 1.3 aerial duels. He does it on all fronts, and he's that multi-dimensional player, the one that can help you in the attack, can get things going, can get guys involved in that attack, but can also anchor a defense from that defensive midfielding spot and really make things a lot easier for everyone else up ahead and even behind them. He's probably the most important piece to this team because of what he does on both sides. But he is one of those players that you just got to live with those mistakes because it certainly comes around. Like Granit Xhaka has made his fair share of mistakes throughout his career, but he's a very valuable player, man. Just his ability to pass the ball and defend at a very high rate, it's really hard to replicate. And so Granit Xhaka comes in at number 3. I couldn't put him any higher. I was maybe thinking about second for him, but the guy up ahead just really leveled the season for them, really made things a lot easier for Arsenal with some other things going around that weren't under his control. But Alexander Lacazette comes in at number 2. The most goals on the team with 17 in 39 matches played. He also had 3 assists. He was by far the most efficient when it came to shooting. 52.6% of his shots were on target of his 1.5 shots per game. The man can almost never miss from there, so you never wanted to give him any sort of light of day. You always wanted to shut him down, but that's the kind of player that Lacazette is, and that's the kind of player that Arsenal need for a full season. Thing is, Lacazette is certainly getting up there in age. He's about to turn 30, and obviously Aubameyang is 31 also, but it was a different feel with Lacazette when he was out there. He seemed to always get in the right position, and when he was there, he would finish. He was a very important piece to this team when Aubameyang was going through his ups and downs throughout the season. Lacazette always settled them down, never, was always available. 39 appearances of 40-something games, so he was available very, very often, and he just always consistently makes the right plays for Arsenal. And that's why I put him this high, because I feel like he did so many different things for them well and was a very calming piece for them whenever he was on the floor. Because for Aubameyang, it just feels like a lot of chaos, a lot of guys. It just doesn't feel organized. With Lacazette, it felt more organized, and I feel like they just play better when he's there, and that's That's why now they're in this tough predicament. I mean, obviously they want Aubameyang to be the guy, but in my opinion, I think Lacazette is just a better overall player, and that's why he comes in at number 2. And lastly, for number 1, we have Bukayo Saka. I really couldn't put him second. I almost did. I almost had Lacazette number 1. I just don't think, when you consider what Bukayo Saka does for that entire attack, it's just, he's the key to it. I mean, his ability to get by multiple defenders and really create most of the offense for this Arsenal team. 7 goals, 6 assists in 41 appearances. Incredible season from Bukayo Saka. And I had talked about it before the season started that I expected him to be one of their more important pieces and a very vital, player in the starting 11. And he was pretty much for the entire season. And you look at his 76.5 pass completion percentage of about 32 passes. He can get, guys involved. 1.0 key passes per game. 1.3 dribbles, successful dribbles to lead the team. And he also gets on the defensive end. 1.1 blocks, 0.8 interceptions. He does it a little bit of everything. And his pace, his potential, just all of it wrapped into one. I mean, the kid's still only 19 years old. And is, in my opinion, already considered the best player on this team. Mainly because a guy like Aubameyang never really took that with stride this season. And Bukayo Saka just continues to put solid performance after solid performance every week. And I really have nothing bad to say about him. Maybe, some defensive efficiency. Maybe you'd want him to be a little bit better of a finisher inside, because you look at his shooting rate. I don't think it's that high. You look at, it's a 31.9 shot on target percentage of 72 shots taken. So you probably want him to be a little bit more efficient in that final third. That's probably the only thing I can say about Bukayo Saka. But everything else, and that'll come with time. I mean, he's 19 years old. I have to say again, he's only 19. He's going to get so much better. And Arsenal have a good one. They just have to hold on to him. But at number 1, you got Bukayo Saka, one of the best young players in the game today. And that's going to wrap it up for this segment. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm very excited to just continue to give you guys all this content that we're just going to continue to give you once every week. Please make sure to, come back whenever you guys want. So, as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.